How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm fellow C-list YouTube star.
C-list, man. We ain't made it up yet. It's only been 2 days. You know, we were C-list stars 2 days ago. So, I mean, it's not enough time.
I mean, I said C-list.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying we haven't made it up to even B yet.
Oh, that's right.
It's only been 2 days.
Oh, true that. Well, I mean, is it like C plus yet, though? Is it, was it in the C minus? Was it a C or a C plus?
We'll see what the numbers say. You know,
the numbers equals somebody, some specific person.
I hope everybody out there is doing well tonight.
See, we already got people in the house already.
That's right. This is
waiting.
Thursday, June 21st, 2018. Man, did I see something about today being the first day of summer? Did I see something about that?
See, man, I honestly don't even pay attention to what the first day or last day of seasons are anymore. I don't do that anymore, man, because actually in South Carolina, it does not matter.
Yeah, because it's just hot.
It's hot. It's like sometimes it will feel the same depending on the humidity level.
Yeah.
Like it could be 80 one day, and then 90 another day, but it might feel the same because the humidity level when it was 80.
All I know is when it comes mid-July, August, it's going to be scorching. It's going to be horrible. Horrible, man. I remember coming down here before I moved here, and the temperature here compared to New York City, oh boy, much different. Much different.
No doubt. My uncle was telling me about that. He was like, man, like running and down south is different from him going running because he lives in Las Vegas, and he said it's much different. He says it's harder for his body to cool down because it's the moisture. And I mean, I noticed the same thing because I've run out west too, and I felt the difference, not just in my body heat, but just like my respiratory capacity. But
yeah, we saw that breaking news. Moose Gal trying to break some news. We got that in the rotation. Yeah. We got that in rotation, so we will be talking about that. Some plans by the White House to drain the swamp, please. All right, whatever. we'll talk about that, though.
Yeah, I bet I know exactly what they doing.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at this.
Yeah, he over here looking at the draft.
You know, I'm just keeping my eye on it. You know, Bamba went 6, so that means Porter's still on.
Porter's still on the board.
Yeah.
Man.
He gonna go 7 or 8. I think he gonna go 8. Anyway, all right. So, like I said, thank you for everybody that joined us tonight. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Please click that button, and also click the bell as well, so that you can get all the newest content as soon as we drop it on YouTube.
That goes for the 2 people that are watching on Facebook right now.
All of you.
All 2 people.
Yeah.
All
click
3.
On, yeah. Be sure to get on YouTube, and so we can, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's just start with a few updates. The Jerry Becton was awarded just under $150,000 as part of a settlement with the city of McKinley, Texas, and the McKinley Police Department. Becton was the then 15-year-old black girl that was violently arrested by Officer Eric Casebolt at a pool party in 2015.
Oh, that was the Super Trooper.
The Super Trooper. He was
doing like the tumble rolls.
Yeah, the tuck and rolls, and man.
He was just like running around.
Yeah, man.
Like
it was his scene, man. It was his scene.
It looked like he was trying to like corral like a bunch of runaway boars. That's what he was trying to do. Like it was no organization to it.
And all of this was in response to a call about people that supposedly weren't supposed to be at the pool.
But obviously, all of these people like had on swimwear, but they weren't even at the pool. These people were either walking away from the pool party or walking to the pool party. So it doesn't make sense to talk to those people. If the complaint is about people who are there that are not supposed to be, you go to the pool party.
Yeah. But he's trying to detain just like everybody.
He was trying to detain everybody.
And she, I don't know if she actually did or not, but he felt like she may have said something disrespectful as she was walking away. So he's like, oh no, oh really? You gonna say, okay, so I'm pulling you back in the scene, even though you ain't got nothing to do with this. I'm gonna assert my authority over you, and I'm gonna brutalize you. So the video, I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen the video where he's pulling her by the hair, and he's shoving her face into the grass,
and of course,
sitting on her with his full body weight. Like both of his knees are on her in her back. Just it's
so pretty much
disgusting.
He put his investigation on hold to deal with this annoying teenager. He put an investigation on hold to go personally deal with this annoying teenager. And I think some of the bystanders, whether they were her friends or people that she knew, people that were at the party, they tried to come to her defense, and he was like,
he pulled a
gun out him.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so there was more money because some other individuals had reached or got a settlement as well, but she got the lump sum because, of course, her case was the most egregious. But I'm glad that she did sue, and I'm glad that she is getting a settlement. She says that she wants to go to college, she wants to become a dentist, and she wants to open up her own practice. So
well, he made that a little easier for her.
That's right. So I wish her well in her life. But I mentioned that he did resign. A grand jury did decline to prosecute him. They declined to, charge him with any crime. They came back with a no bill, which is not surprising.
Because the thing is, it's like he can always get another job.
Yeah.
So unless you start to either charge them with a crime, then the stuff will keep happening. The same things will keep happening. Like, if I can understand why there's a reluctancy to prosecute police officers, but there has to be some sort of consequence. If you're not going to prosecute them in the exact same way that, we do civilians, then there has to be something. They have to lose something and not just their job.
Right. All right. So another update. Recently, before the G7 summit, President Trump suggested that NFL players that had kneeled for the national anthem, he presented them with an opportunity. He told reporters that he would want them to provide him with a list of people they would want to see pardoned, and he would look over the list, and either he can pardon them, or at least let them out, from the prison sentence that they're currently serving. So a group of the NFL players have now responded, and they responded with no names. So it was Doug Baldwin of the Seattle Seahawks, Antwon Bolden, who's a former NFL wide receiver, Malcolm Jenkins of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Benjamin Watson of the New Orleans Saints. They all wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. It read in part, "A handful of pardons will not address the sort of systemic injustice that NFL players have been protesting. These are problems that our government has created, many of which occur at the local level. If President Trump thinks he can end these injustices if we deliver him a few names, he hasn't been listening to us."
That's interesting, because the first part of that was kind of exactly what we're saying, and exactly the reason we were seeing Trump's proposal as empty, because it doesn't address the systematic issues.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we said.
You're going to do some good things for people that are in, some injustices that have been, brought on to some people. Maybe they're serving some long sentences that they shouldn't even be serving in the first place. Whatever. I'm sure, just like Alice Marie Johnson, of course we wanted to see her out, but you're not changing the system. So you're just leaving the system in place for the same old pathway to the same old outcome.
And you know what? I don't think they're kind of tossing his offer back in his face has to do with just that. The fact that it didn't solve or address the structural issues. I think they all knew that it was some sort of, bribe.
Yeah, it was
a bribe. They probably foresaw that this was a tactic to maybe get them to shut up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what it was.
So they recognized it as it was. You know what I'm saying?
They also said in the article, apart from using the pardon power, there are policies the president and the attorney general could implement to help. For instance, they could eliminate life without parole for nonviolent offenses. They also added, The president can implement these changes with his pardon power and other executive decisions. His ability to change the lives of people for the better is immense. We hope he uses it not just for the few, but for the many. So they actually offered solutions like that they would want to see, not just empty pardons, but actual, systemic changes that will help the overall system and help not, I guess, disenfranchise people, lock people up for life sentences without the possibility of parole.
But think about
minimum sentences.
Think about how inefficient that is, though. Think about how inefficient that is, offering like individuals pardons. So does it begin and end with these, the people in jail that these NFL players have suggested be released?
Yes.
Like, does it begin and end there?
Yes, because the NFL players carry clout and they can advocate for whoever these people are.
And let's just say that whether it be NFL players, just professional athletes as a whole, or let's just say entertainers as a whole, take this issue on as a collective, that still would be a very inefficient way to deal with people who don't need to be in prison. So every time, like, I guess somebody wants to bring the issue up, they have to go through these very prominent figures.
Yes.
Say, hey, we got a list and we need you to present Trump with this list. He'll probably respect you because you're an entertainer. Okay, go get it done.
And how easy, or rather should I say, how difficult would it be to attract the attention of these famous people if you're just a regular person? That is exactly like you just said. It's very inefficient. And we all know that the private prison system is still relevant,
and they have ties. There's private prison companies and investors who have ties to Trump. So
yeah, and we know that system encourages imprisonment because they get paid. Whether they have to keep their prisons full, to get a certain amount of money. It's a whole horrible system. So you're not doing anything about that. Like I said, all you're just doing is getting some people out so that other people can fill their places. So I'm glad that the NFL players saw that for what it was, and they were like, nah, we're not even going to entertain that.
They definitely didn't want to be pawns, man.
Nah, so I'm glad.
Because Trump would have used that as some sort of springboard
photo op
to campaign in favor of Republicans during the midterms, and then in 2020.
Boy, how good would he feel if he could get NFL players beside him, signing some pardon or something?
Especially after he done stepped in shit all this time.
Man.
Getting in the middle of it.
All right. So let's get to what's been going on recently. What most people have been talking about in this country as it relates to news. It's everywhere. Everywhere, just about every publication is covering it. Every news outlet is everywhere.
It's obvious. It's a distraction, though, Will.
Oh, yeah, it's just a distraction.
This is a distraction from the damning IG report that doesn't say anything that people are claiming it says. It's a distraction from that.
All right.
Obviously.
So on Wednesday, President Trump signed an executive order to end the process of separating children from their parents at the U.S. southern border. Trump told reporters that the zero-tolerance policy against crossing the border illegally will remain, but that parents will be with their children while in custody. So he was flanked by his team, his Secretary of Homeland Security, Kirsten Nielsen, and his VP,
who was
top dog,
who was recently booed out of a Mexican restaurant.
Oh yeah,
ironically, Nielsen
was.
Sorry, not Pence, but Nielsen was. But that is very ironic.
It was very. I don't know if it was funny. It was satisfying. It was satisfying, a little bit.
I don't know what she thought was going to happen if she went into a Mexican restaurant.
Bad look.
It was
bad
just
time.
A bad look. Bad time.
But anyway, during the whole sign-in little ceremony, President Trump said, "We're going to have strong, very strong borders, but we're going to keep the families together. I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated." So again, here we have the president of the United States who initiated, well, at least his administration did with his full support, of separating families at the border. This was his administration that enacted this type of policy. But this is President Trump removing himself from any type of responsibility for it and saying, oh, yeah, I mean, this is such a sad situation. You know, I didn't like this at all. I'm glad we got to do something about it.
Yeah, since the middle of April of this year, nearly 2,000 children.
I think it's over now.
It's over now. It was just the numbers that I got were from the end of July.
Right, okay.
End of May. Sorry, May, okay. End of May. So they didn't include the numbers from this month. So at that time, from the middle of April until May 31st, it was like 1,995 children that had been separated from their parents. That was this year. This year, not last year.
Yeah, just in a short period of time.
Not last year, not the year before last.
Yeah.
But this year. Since April. So, like, even if there's this, narrative going around that says Obama did the same thing, okay, great. So how do you explain the number of children being taken away from their parents going up?
Right.
How do people explain Trump, I guess, exaggerating this a year and a half after he was inaugurated?
Exactly. And so the whole thing about this zero tolerance policy staying in place, I don't know how accurate that is, because on Thursday, there was a senior official with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency that told the Washington Post that they will no longer refer migrants with children crossing into the U.S. Illegally to federal courthouses for prosecution. They said, well, the senior official said it is a decision that rests with them. Mm-hmm. It's not a decision that rests with the DOJ or the president of the United States. It is them. And so they are saying that no longer will they refer migrants with children who cross into the U.S. for criminal prosecution.
Yeah, Sessions' no tolerance policy put everything under the same umbrella. Mm-hmm. Whether it's just like being here illegally, illegal entry, other immigration violations, or possible criminal activity, it was all under the same umbrella, which is not how it was before.
What's funny to me is that, this whole time, because the controversy has been spiking. It's every day it seems like it's being talked about more, and the administration is taking more and more heat for it. So you saw a lot of deflections or excuses for it from the administration.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that partially some of the outrage could be due to how this administration has responded to it, and some of its surrogate networks known as Fox, and some of his surrogate supporters, like his former campaign manager, who was on, was that NBC?
Corey Lewandowski,
where he was like womp womp when I guess another guest brought up one of the children detainees who had Down syndrome. He was like womp womp.
Right. That was disgusting.
That was disgusing. Or like when you have another Trump supporter in Ann Coulter talking about these are child actors. Or you have
Trump himself
say the same thing. Or you have Jeff Sessions and Sarah Huckabee Sanders using the Bible to justify this.
Right.
Or you have what's the chick from Fox? Heil Hitler. Laura Ingraham. You call it Ingraham? What did she say? She said it was like
summer camp.
Like summer camp. And there was another person, I forgot his name, on Fox. He basically said, well, at least Trump is not gassing the children.
Oh, at least. That's the positive.
So again, we have like a lot of rhetoric accompanied with this policy. This policy, which is actually new.
So that's what I want to get into, because again, we went through many different phases of this where it was a policy that was extended, from the Obama administration. It was something that, what did they say? They said that it wasn't, like I said, they said it wasn't a change. Then they said, well, it's because of the Bible, we have the power to do that. Then they said it was the Democrats' fault. Then they said, that it wasn't even a policy whatsoever. But they all have been saying that what has to be done is through Congress. It's the Democrats' fault, and the only thing that can change this is Congress. It was Kirstjen Nielsen, that said Congress and the courts created this problem, and Congress alone can fix it. So if that is true, this is what they've been telling us for days and weeks, then how the hell was Donald Trump, President Trump, with the stroke of a pen, able to somewhat remedy the situation? If all of what they said was true, what was the meaning for this executive order then?
Oh, you mean like the executive order that happened the day after he claimed he couldn't do anything about it?
Not one thing. And
during the press conference, a reporter specifically asked him, I think it was a female reporter, and he was like, can't you, do something about it personally? She specifically said through executive order. And he was like, no. Can't do anything. But the day after that, he signs an executive order. And now he wants credit for it.
So I thought Donald Trump wasn't a politician. I thought this was somebody that was actually going to lead the people. He wasn't going to play party politics. He wasn't getting to this whole game. He was going to drain the swamp.
Democrats versus Republicans.
Yeah. But now it seems like, at the very least, it seems like you capitulated, which would be playing politics. Because you said that okay, you know what? Let's get to one part of the executive order, okay? So this was in part what the executive order read as. Said it is unfortunate that Congress's failure to act and court's orders have put the administration in the position of separating alien families to effectively enforce the law. If that is true that the only way to effectively enforce the law is by separating families, you just, with the power of this executive order, said that we are no longer going to enforce, we are no longer going to separate families. So this law and order president that is only interested in law and order and justice, you're telling me that you can't effectively enforce the law anymore? It was
also
really,
actually, see,
that doesn't make sense.
They could have left that out, but they had to add some sort of talking point within the executive order, a talking point that actually shows that they are liars
and that they're playing politics.
Because if I'm reading it correctly, they're saying that this did not exist. The executive order says, hey, we had to do that because the law wasn't being enforced, or we had to do this to enforce the law. Yes. By saying that, they are admitting that was not a practice before.
Right.
Because they're saying that we had to do this because they weren't doing it.
So that would have been a shift in policy.
That would have been a shift in policy. Again, they could have left that out, but they had to insert a political talking point.
A political jab
but
to the Democrats.
In doing that, they're proving themselves to be liars.
Yes.
And
that's what they are.
The question I have is like, how does it make the process more efficient? Like taking children away from their parents. How does that make the process more efficient? How does that accomplish their goal? You see what I'm saying? Because why do they have to do that to carry out the law? The law as is. Why did
they said that it was done again to enforce the law effectively and to prevent human trafficking. So again, if you're going to backtrack now, you're telling us that you are now allowing human trafficking and you can't effectively enforce the law with your executive order, with your presidential powers. I don't buy it. I don't buy that.
I don't buy it either. And since we're talking about this administration, abiding by the rule of law, according to the Refugee Convention, which addresses the status of asylum seekers and refugees, it states the contracting state shall not impose penalties on account of their legal entry or presence. So, according to our Attorney General, according to the Chief of Staff, according to DHS Secretary, did they not clearly state that they were taking children away as a deterrent? or as a tactic, could that be viewed as a punishment or a penalty for people seeking asylum?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're kind of in violation. I think it was like, I think that's a treaty from 1950 something. I can't remember.
Well,
it sounded like.
But anyway, I mean, look, overall, this is, I guess, good news in a way, because again, especially coming from the senior official with the Customs and Border, Protection Agency, if they're not going to refer these people for criminal prosecution, and they're not going to, but they're not going to detain the children separately from the parents. This is an overall good situation, but it's not the end. Okay, it's definitely not the end. This executive order did not address the kids that already have been taken away. So the over 2,000 kids that have been taken away, as of right now, it's still going through the process. Like, they're still going through the process. It's not like they're immediately going to be returned to their parents, because that would be an exhaustive process anyways, because they have been shipped to different places in the United States of America.
And White House officials have already said that there is not actually a plan to see that those children are reunited with their parents.
Well, I saw a bit of it wasn't an interview. It was while Kirsten Nielsen was walking away, and a reporter did ask her, was there a plan? She said, yes, there was. But she reminded the reporter that you're talking about, you're not talking about the majority of these kids, because the majority of these kids are the unaccompanied minors that crossed the border, not the ones that crossed with their parents. So she wanted to throw that in just to make sure you understand that it's not the majority of kids that are being detained or whatever.
So what is this all about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this all about? Is it important for us to get the facts straight, not take sides and get the facts straight? Right?
Yes.
Because, of course, Trump did the typical shift where he blamed the Democrats.
Right.
And, of course, everyone responded with, well, Obama deported more people.
Right.
But that's not actually the conversation.
That's not the conversation.
The conversation was about children being separated.
Right.
That was the conversation. And this is not actually defending Obama or defending Bill Clinton, which a lot of people have referenced from the bill in 1997. That made being undocumented a misdemeanor. Right. But it did not include anything about separating children from their parents. I think the only thing that bill included was provisions about how long they can have children in detention before they are reunited with their parents or someone that they know, a family member.
All right. So that gets into why this isn't over yet. Okay. Because with this executive decision, what the Trump administration wants to do is effectively, they want to detain families for an indefinite period of time. So there is a decision, a U.S. Supreme Court decision, and it's Flores v. Reno. And it stipulates that minor children cannot be held for more than 20 days. So this is why we understand that this is a new policy from the Trump administration, because what had been happening was that after 20 days, the whole family was being released. Now, like Flores v. Reno didn't stipulate that the parents had to be released from detainment, but they did it anyways. With the Trump administration, they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to hold these families, and we're just going to initially take the children because we know we can't hold them more than 20 days. So this is why this is not over. Flores v. Reno actually began about conditions about conditions to which minor children were being held by the government. So this is from Vox right here, and let me read this out. The Flores settlement requires the federal government to do two things: to place children with a close relative or family friend without unnecessary delay, rather than keeping them in custody, and to keep immigrant children who are in custody in the least restrictive conditions possible. Now, that was because the particular individual, Flores, was an immigrant girl, and the conditions to which she was being detained was very restrictive. You could say it was abuse. She was forced to strip, she was forced into strip searches every day. There were some other things as well. So like I said, through that decision, they addressed parameters to which, you had to detain these children. But it started out as only about unaccompanied minors that crossed the border, not with their parents. Now, in 2014, under the Obama administration, that's when it changed to include accompanied minors as well, accompanied minors that were crossing the border with their parents. So it included all of them. And it was about different things, but the Obama administration was really trying to ram through these deportation proceedings. And there was a lot of criticism about that, because when you do that, you effectively stamp out due process. So it was just a horrible process. And they stopped doing it. But anyway, after 20 days, they would have released the whole family. So that's where the Trump administration comes in April, and they said, well, we're just going to take the kids. So,
and the tactic they used was to kind of change what kind of charge that they were giving to these parents,
right? Because it was always a civil procedure. Yeah, it was civil proceedings. It was a misdemeanor.
It would go through the immigration courts. Now, with Jeff Sessions and this administration's agenda going forward, they wanted to treat all these undocumented immigrants or asylum seekers, refugees, as criminals and send it through those courts.
Right. So again,
that's the way they get that. That's the way they rationalize. Hey, we got to treat these people like criminals. So that's why we got to take their kids away,
like violent criminals too.
But see, again, they stepped in shit. They could have just did that. They could have just said, hey, they're all going to be criminals under the same umbrella. But they actually had to come out and say that we're going to do this. We're going to take children away as a tactic. They actually came and said that. This is why the ACLU got involved in that lawsuit.
See, the thing to do, if you're the Trump administration and you want to say, okay, you know what, we're going to be a law and order administration, and we're going to detain these people, we're going to hold criminal proceedings, this is a felony now. If you want to do that, then you would have challenged this ruling before you started ripping children away from their parents. Because again, if you're able to do this, and we have no idea if they're going to be able to just rip up Flores v. Reno. We have no idea if they're going to be able to do that. But if they were able to do that, then they would have been able to hold families for an indefinite period of time, and people wouldn't have amounted to all this outrage, because families would have been together in detainment, but they would have been together. So it wouldn't have amounted to all this outrage. But they did it in the other way, and that's why all this controversy was set off. So that's what I believe he's tasking the DOJ with doing, to challenge this ruling, which I don't think, I don't know if, first of all, I don't know if they'll be able to do it. But second of all, if they are, it's not good, because one, it'll be indefinite detainment. And two, if you get rid of Flores v. Reno, then you're also getting rid of the rules on how to house minor children. Because, like I said, it all started with this young girl, Flores, who was being kept in very restrictive conditions. And, like I said, it amounted to abuse. So then if you get rid of that ruling, you would be opening up the door for the government to abuse this situation, to abuse these parents and these children.
I think that's the point. That's why they're constantly building more detention centers, because they plan on keeping them indefinitely. You don't build big facilities if you don't have plans to keep them, or you know what I'm saying, or work around the law so you can do it.
Help me understand that, though. Like, I understand definitely the reasoning behind private prisons. I guess I less understand, or understand less, building more immigrant prisons. Because with private prisons, okay, there's a whole lot of reasons to have private prisons. You're getting rid of a voting block. you're disrupting, or no, you're I guess running havoc on certain communities. You're sustaining the war on drugs. you know, free labor. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons for private prisons. But for more immigrant jails, what are they getting out of it?
What do you mean, what are they getting out of it? They could possibly be searching for a new population to get free labor from, since crime is going down. And
see, if it's that, then I would understand.
Since crime is going down, and if you look at where the United States is shifting as far as marijuana policy,
right?
Where is it shifting?
The progressive way.
The progressive way. And what does that mean? That means less bodies in jail.
Right.
But there's still work to be done. There's still labor to be done.
It's true.
You see what I'm saying? So why not?
Yeah, if it's about the labor part, then yeah, I understand.
So why not go that route?
But are they going to have these people in immigration jails do labor? I mean, I guess they could.
They could. We don't know. But that seems like that would be a good option for them.
Yeah.
Seeing as the way this country is shifting, and seeing as crime is going down, seeing as like cases that we talked about in Louisiana 2 years ago, where the local officials were belly aching and crying because they couldn't fill the jails.
Right.
So they're desperate here. They're desperate for free labor. What better way to get to, I guess, fulfill that market? Fill that labor market, because they want to deport people, but then those jobs aren't filled, and Americans don't want to take those jobs, but these companies still need those people.
So they don't want them in the country, but if they're going to be in the country,
they don't want them in the country on their terms.
Right. Like, well, they don't want them being free in the country. But if they're going to be in the country,
that's what it's about.
Let them.
That's
be
what
entertained.
The whole, constantly Americans running around being mad that people were speaking Spanish.
Right.
That's what's the guy we did a story on Tuesday about Arizona.
Right.
In Arizona, the GOP candidate.
Right. Right.
Talking about there's not enough white kids to go around.
Right.
The demographics are shifting.
Stringer.
Stringer.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's what that about. I don't think that people like him care that immigrants are here. I really don't think that they really care about that. They care about how much power immigrants have. That's why it's all about, like when Trump says, they just want them here so they can vote Democrat. It's all about power. Because at one point, didn't African American slaves that are brought over from Africa, they outnumbered the population. So it has nothing to do with population. It has to do with political representation and power. So they don't care how many immigrants are undocumented. I wouldn't say undocumented. They don't really care that they're here. They just care about controlling them while they're here. Well, having them here for a labor force, it could be both. Yeah, but having them here for a labor force and they're not being in control of their own livelihoods fully is different from them being here and making them legal and being in control of their own livelihoods. This is about control.
And what's interesting is I saw this article earlier today on The Hill, right? And it states, it's on the Hill, like I said, it's on The Hill. It says the number of non-Hispanic white people in the United States decreased for the first time in the nation's history between 2015 and 2016, according to new numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau. It says that white fertility is down. More people are waiting to procreate, and then we're getting out of this whole baby boomers generation where they were procreating a lot.
Specifically, women. Specifically, women have more of a choice whether to start a family or not. Before, they did not have a choice. So
because you wanted to keep them in the home,
they want to keep them in the home, keep them having babies. Right. That's what their purpose was.
So also, while the white population numbers went down, minority numbers went up. So we're talking about Hispanic numbers went up, black people went up, Asian went up. So this country is changing. And I believe right now, I think it's 62% white in this country, in the United States of America. And for the foreseeable future, I mean, that number is going to be sustained. But as time goes by, you are going to see more minority populations.
Yeah, but again, so you're talking about the birth rates of so-called people classified as white. It's actually the birth rates have gone down for all groups. They've gone down for all groups. So,
but
for our boy TJ on here, speaking that truth on Facebook.
But yeah, so that's oh yeah, also I did want to point out Kim Kardashian. Because she is this political figure now. I didn't understand that she was a political figure. Then we needed to go to her to see how she was feeling about issues. She's Ja now. Where's Ja?
She's the string puller. She's the string puller.
Yeah. Man. So we need to understand. Like we need to go to Kim Kardashian West. We need to get her answers, and that's going to dictate like how we feel about issues now. So she offered her opinion, and she wasn't in agreement with the child separation, but she also had some other things to offer. She said, "I try to see all sides. There's obviously a lot that we don't agree with, but I want him, President Trump, to win. I want him to succeed because it's our country. It's so crazy that everyone doesn't want that."
Yeah.
So she's selling that fallacy that people don't want Donald Trump to win because they hate Donald Trump.
That's actually not really like a new argument that's kind of been thrown out there. That's kind of been the argument thrown out there since he got there.
Yeah. It's a fallacy.
And it assumes that everything Trump wants to implement is a good thing. And it assumes that anybody who doesn't, I guess, sign on to that agenda is not wanting to him to win. But my thing is, if we are supposed to assess what this administration is doing and what Trump is doing in regard to any particular topic, and we kind of, I guess, calculated that it's not a good thing, why would I want that to succeed? It has nothing to do with him in particular. It has to do with us analyzing each situation and determining that, hey, this doesn't look good. This is not a good thing.
So the word win is all relative.
It's all relative.
It depends on how you perceive things. I'm sure Donald Trump perceives certain issues as wins, and we surely do not. So do I want him to win on those issues? Absolutely not. But I don't have a position that's just anti-Trump just on its face. Like anything that Donald Trump does, I'm anti-Trump. No. I wait until he actually does something or that he actually says something. I determine if it's good or if it's bad. It's not an anti-Trump position. It's not a we don't want Trump to win position.
Remember, he's playing with a handicap. He's playing with a handicap. And so, therefore, anybody who supports him expects us to, I guess, gauge our assessment and gauge our analysis with him and his administration with that handicap in mind.
You remember, and we were very fair. You remember at the very beginning of his presidency. No, even before he took office. After he won the election, what did we say? We were like, you know what? Hey, Trump's the president. We know how he ran his campaign, and we were totally against it. But he's the president now. Let's see what he does. I'm not gonna say that we even said that we were encouraged, but we were gonna give him the opportunity to prove us wrong, to do things that like we could actually be in support of. We didn't judge him right away, even though he gave us ample material to judge him through the campaign.
Before he was officially inaugurated.
Yeah. So we don't have an anti-Trump bias. We have an anti his policies bias.
Facts are facts. End of story. Facts are facts. And if you can't deal with the facts, then that's not our problem.
It's true.
That's not our problem.
But see, like you said, that's a current. I mean, well, that's a very familiar talking point that people bring up. Oh, you don't want him to win. You're just against him. Like anybody that lives here, like you don't want America to succeed. But it's just about what side of the argument you're on. Like, what does succeed mean to you? What does win mean to you? Everybody's definition is going to be different. And his definition, President Trump's definition of succeeding and winning, doesn't seem to,
so when he says,
add up to our definition.
When he says things like wages are too high, I'm supposed to just say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna ride with that because I don't want to make myself seem like I'm against Trump. I'm just against ideas. I'm against or for ideas, and if the idea is bad, or it
call it for what it is.
If it lacks foresight, or if he says things that paint a picture of certain groups of people and encourage people to marginalize others, I'm not going to sign on to that. I'm not going to apologize for it. You know what I'm saying? So,
But anyway, so like I said, there's still more to happen on this front. Like I said, the Trump administration will try to overturn that Flores v. Reno decision, and we don't know if they will be able to do it. So,
and you know, Trump's administration has a history of being
smacked down by federal courts. Yeah. Often that's the case. So,
but they're totally about the rule of law, but don't know the law themselves.
So we'll see what happens.
Checks and balances is a bitch, boy.
I'm saying, right? Law and order. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna go on to the next story. That means Facebook, we're done with you. Thank you for joining us for this first part of LTMB Live. We're going to continue the rest of the show on YouTube. Please click the link that's in the description, and you can see the rest of the show, man. We got some police brutality to talk about. We have some
information about how sales tax is going to be processed.
Yeah, exactly. It might be more expensive to shop online in the future. Also, this whole supposed draining the swamp and merging departments, and we have to get to that as well. So, like I said, please join us, and we'll look for you. We hope you join us in just a few seconds. All right. All right. Close it. Let me get water before I forget. All right. Let me just. Oh my goodness.
All right. What's the news, man? Got some draft news.
Yo, I don't even think Porter's been drafted.
Porter's not been drafted?
I don't think he's been drafted.
Wow. Trae Young before.
Porter has not been drafted.
Wow.
We're at pick number 14 now. Well, 13 have been picked. Porter has not been drafted.
Well, I guess they weren't as confident as he was in himself. Can remember what he said?
Yeah,
he said he was the best
player in the draft. Yeah, Miles Bridges got picked before him. Oh, that's Jerome Robinson, who I don't even think. No, Jerome Robinson, point guard. I don't even know who that is. Anyway, we're just gonna give some time for people to get on. But anyway, let's get on Antwon Rose, man.
Oh yeah, man. We got you want to do the back-to-back? You want to do this one and then do the next one?
Yeah, possibly. We'll see what the time is, because the other one might take a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are related. They deal with improper policing. Oh boy. All right. So a 17-year-old black student was killed by police in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Tuesday night. According to the Allegheny Police Department, officers had responded to a call of a man being shot from a passing vehicle. Now that man ended up at the hospital, but he was later released. He didn't, die from the incident. There was a description of a vehicle that was fleeing the scene, the suspected shooters, and about 15 minutes later, officers stopped the vehicle matching that description. So as the driver was being taken into custody, 2 other occupants of that vehicle ran away from the officers. So we have video from somebody that was a little ways down the street, probably in their home, taking video of this situation.
From the second or third story.
Yeah. So
residential.
If you haven't seen this video, it is. I mean, it's. I won't say it's graphic because you can't see anything, but just knowing what happened, it's an awful video. So.
Why are they shooting at him? No, I'm recording this. Why are they shooting? All they did was run, and they're shooting at them.
So that's just a short video, but it does show what happened. The student's name was Antwon Rose II, who attended Woodland Hills High School in Pittsburgh. There was a press conference, and it was the Allegheny County Police Superintendent Coleman McDonough who said that Rose, the student that was killed, was unarmed and he was shot 3 times, presumably in the back. He was running away from the officer. Officers did find 2 guns in the vehicle. I believe the superintendent McDonald said that they were found on the floor. The driver of the vehicle was brought in for questioning, but he was ultimately released.
I think they suspected he was like some sort of like I forgot what word they used. Jiffy, was it called? Yeah. It's like an unregulated industry where people offer rides to other people, kind of like Uber or Lyft, but it's not. It's unregulated. It's just like they hand their numbers out, they get their cards out, and they give people rides. It's predominantly in very poor neighborhoods because sometimes they can't afford public transportation. Sometimes the public transportation is bad, so they use these drivers. I forgot what it's called. It's like Jiffy. I can't remember what they call these drivers, but go ahead.
But there was another occupant that ran from the vehicle as well, but he didn't get hit with the bullets. The officer fired 3 times, and all 3 bullets hit Rose from the back, of course. So that other occupant has not been found yet. He has not been apprehended. They don't know who it is as of yet, or at least they have not reported that they know who it is. So the officer's name as well has not been released, but it's been reported that he was removed from, I guess, his duties. Well, no, he wasn't relieved of his duties, but he was put on administrative leave. He was with the department for only a short time. I believe it was that same day, earlier in the day, he was actually sworn in to that police department. But he was not new to the profession. I believe he had about 8 years of experience, so he wasn't a new police officer.
And in 8 years, I know this. I've read that he was at multiple police
departments. Yeah. So the superintendent McDonald, he also said that he was confident that the vehicle that they stopped, that Rose was in, he felt confident that that was the vehicle that they were looking for. And he noted that the rear window had ballistic damage, so I guess some damage from the gunfire. He said that the man that was shot, that went to the hospital, was shot with .40 caliber bullets. They didn't note what, I believe they said there was 2 semi-automatic handguns, I believe, that were found in the vehicle. They didn't note what caliber.
I think that's important in all of this. What kind of guns were recovered in the car? Was there actually gun damage or damage that would indicate that the car was shot by a firearm to the car? I mean, I couldn't tell from the video.
No, there's no way to tell.
Also, fingerprints on these weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I think until those details are released, you can't really get a good picture of what happened. Also, if we're looking at the claims of a drive-by, I guess that's the claims.
That's the claim.
That's not necessarily what may have happened. You see what I'm saying?
That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
We don't know.
We don't know. There's an assumption that the individual that is seen as the victim, the 22-year-old, who also
shot back.
Right,
that's right.
There is an assumption that
he's the victim. Right, but we don't know. So, of course, there's an investigation, and I believe there are multiple police departments that are investigating what happened, the events that happened. Here's the rub, man. No matter if this vehicle is in fact the vehicle that they were looking for, no matter if they were actually guilty of being the perpetrators, like the instigators, like the man that was shot, he is the actual victim, and the people, including Rose, they were guilty of shooting at him. It doesn't matter here. What matters is that Rose, he ran from the vehicle. He ran away from the police officer. He was unarmed. From what I can tell, and from what the superintendent McDonald said and what he didn't say, it doesn't seem like he made any threatening movements. He was running away. All right. So the only way that you can perceivably state this case as a justified shooting is if you say that the officer's life was in jeopardy or somebody that Rose was running to, their life was in jeopardy. That's the only two explanations that you can arrive at. If you can't make that case, then this was a bad shoot. This was murder. That's as simple as I can put it. He was running away and shot in the back. You can't, I'll just say this real quick. Police officers cannot take a shortcut to justice. If somebody is running away from you, no matter what the problem is, if they're not running to cause damage to somebody else, hurt somebody else, hurt you, then you have to do your duty as a police officer and apprehend that suspect. You do not get to circumvent justice and dish out the death penalty to somebody that flees.
So let's put ourselves in the position of the cop, seeing as that's what people ask. Especially when situations go down like this and people become outraged about the outcome. Let's see if we can rationalize his mindset. He pulls the car over.
Oh, you said try to rationalize his mindset.
Try to.
All right, go ahead.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He pulled the car over.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we can't.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
We pull the car over. We detain the driver. We see two people get out the car and run. We see that they are running away from us.
Right.
Kill them. That's the kind of like the steps I'm seeing. Those are the basic steps.
Outline.
That's the outline. Pull the car over, detain the driver, two suspects running away from the car. They're running away from you. Shoot them. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to see like how.
Was there anything added in there that you could possibly throw in?
Well, it looks like he was just playing duck hunt. You just rattle the bushes and just shoot whatever comes out.
And unfortunately, he was a good shoot.
Yeah, we've seen cases where a police officer unloads his clip,
right,
and really
it
didn't hit anything,
right,
or maybe hits it once or twice, shots that aren't fatal. But in this case,
all three shots.
I don't. Again, according to the video I saw, it didn't sound like he emptied his clip.
No, shot 3 times. He hit him 3 times. So, according to the Post-Gazette, Pennsylvania law allows police officers to use deadly force to prevent someone from escaping arrest if that person has committed a forcible felony, possesses a deadly weapon, or if the person has indicated he or she will endanger human life or inflict bodily injury if not arrested.
Now, I read that as well, and at the time the officer pulled this vehicle over, he didn't know anything.
You can't go into the situation and say
this person has already committed a felony. It specifically says they have committed a felony,
right,
like a scenario that we can introduce. I guess that would relate to a situation that would apply to, that it applies to that situation. Is, let's say somebody's robbing a convenience store, and then the police comes, and then the person who is robbing the convenience store like shoots the clerk and runs away.
Right.
And a police officer sees that. They actually have seen this person commit the felony. Right. In this case, the person or the group of people that they ultimately pulled over, they did not know he was investigating.
You couldn't have determined it.
I don't think that law or applies in that situation.
It can't. Like, we see all the time in cases of these police officers that, you know, they shoot suspects, they shoot people, unarmed people. It's all about what they perceive as a threat. That's why a lot of them never get charged. And even if they do get charged, the grand jury comes back with no bill, or even if the grand jury comes back with a bill, when it gets to the trial, the jury says, no, not guilty. So it's all about what they perceive, and it has to be objectively reasonable. So that's what this is all going. I'm like that. The DA is going to have to determine if this was a good shoot or not. If it was objectively reasonable for this officer to, looks like maybe not even a second after these two people, we don't even know what the age of the other one is. These two people, as soon as they bolted from the vehicle, he shot. just like that? Were you able to perceive a realistic threat just like that?
Yeah, I think we're both acknowledging that the officer is approaching this particular situation, examining what he would think is visual evidence. So that would be probable cause to pull over the car to investigate. You know, because I guess judging from what the reports, they say in the reports, damage to the car, match the description. So great, pull them over. You have probable cause. You think that they may have been involved. But again, still don't know what went down in that situation.
There's no way you could know, especially not at that point. There's no way. This case or this incident is eerily familiar to an incident that was here in North Charleston with Walter Scott. Officer Michael Slager shot him in the back. I'm sure many remember that film. It was somebody that had cell phone video. This officer didn't have body cam, but somebody took some cell phone video and it was able to capture Walter Scott leisurely running away from the Officer Slager. I don't know if it was his fast run or not, but he was an older guy. He wasn't running very well, and Officer Slager didn't seem like this was like a real threat. Didn't seem like he was rushed or hurried or like he was in fear for his life or anything. He just calmly pulled out his gun, shot him in the back a few times, and he killed him. So Officer Slager, he was sentenced to, I believe he got 20 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to second degree murder charges.
But the first trial,
yeah, it was a
hung jury.
A hung jury, that's right.
So even though it was clearly on camera, it was clearly obvious that Slager shot Walter Scott in the back without Scott being an actual threat.
It's still a hung jury the first time. But you know, a lot of times in the second trial, it does come back with a guilty verdict. So he pleaded guilty to a lesser sentence.
The question is here, we're talking about, I guess, what is going on in the cop's mind and what he actually believes about the situation. Because essentially it's going to hinge upon that.
That's all it hinges upon.
That's all it hinges upon. So the question is, did the suspect pose a significant threat to the officer or any people in the area? Right. That's the question.
There's an actual Supreme Court decision that addresses that. It was the 85 case Garner v. Tennessee. So it held that the use of deadly force is not permissible unless, quote, the officer has probable cause to believe that the suspect poses a significant threat of death or a serious physical injury to the officer or others. So that's it right there. There's another decision that addresses it as well, but tie that up in a nice pretty bow. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, if he didn't perceive a threat to himself, other officers, or anybody else, then this was a bad shoot. Point blank.
Yeah, found that the use of deadly force to prevent escape is an unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment.
Right. Because and this actual case too, it dealt with a burglar. He was fleeing. He was fleeing from the scene. I believe he stole like $10, but he was trying to make his way over a fence. Officers told him to stop. He didn't stop. He kept going over the fence. They shot him. They killed him.
But see, what they're going to argue is that in this case, one of the suspects were possibly a part of a felony. That's what they're going to argue.
See, I'm going to go back to what you were talking about too, though. About, do you know that these are the suspects? In fact, by that time, did you know that these were the suspects? In the Garner case, did these officers know that he was the burglar for a fact? They might have. That would make it even, like, this situation would make it even worse, because you still don't know at the point that they run that you have the right people. So think about if they aren't the right people and they're running from a vehicle because they're scared. Because it's reasonable to be scared of police officers in 2018 in the United States of America.
So basically,
and some of them run.
Basically, what you're saying is it's not about the guilt or innocence of the suspects.
It's absolutely
not. It's about the possibility that police officers may come across people that aren't guilty of the crime that they are investigating, and they may run.
Right. And again, like we have said before, you know, we showed the video with the young boy. You know, he was doing flips and he was evading capture from the police officers. I think that was in Washington D.C. They never caught him, I don't believe. And you know, that was a funny video. I mean, because he was able to get away and like just all the tricks that he was doing. It was fascinating. But we would never advocate for somebody running away from the police because it never goes well. The like, I think it was like less than 1% of the time that it actually goes in the way of the people that actually fleeing. So it's not a good idea, but people still do it. Even though it's not a good idea, it doesn't give officers the right to issue the death penalty on who is evading them.
I think like one thing has to be clear when we're talking about police officer engagement or how they're engaging with the community or neighborhood or wherever they're at, wherever their job takes them, wherever in the city their job takes them, and how they're interacting with those people. I think sometimes I think people get trapped in seeing a uniform and acting as if our human instincts are somehow arrested or come to a halt simply because somebody has on a uniform. Like I recently got into an argument with a cop. I actually initiated conversation with him and he just literally just shut me out. Like I initiated conversation with him so we can rectify something because there was a city statute that was specific to Columbia that I wanted to talk to him about to see like some solutions, like to get him to understand why this city statute was burdensome for some people. You know, he did not want to hear it, and so he started becoming a dick. And you know what kind of came over me? Did I see his uniform once he started giving me that attitude? Once I saw that he was not responsive, once I saw that he was closed-minded? Nah, I treated him like I treat anybody who I'm arguing with. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't see that uniform. I was cursing. I was like, man, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I treated him like a normal person because that uniform is an illusion. Right. If he's illogical, if he is kind of being belligerent, if he is being very either aggressive or just being just kind of showing himself to be somebody who is inflated by his uniform, to me that doesn't matter. So I got into an argument with him the same way I got into an argument with anybody else. And so I didn't see that uniform. And I think when people engage with officers, I think that instinct of fight or flight or you're scared, all those things are kind of human impulses, and you're going to react that way. And simply because somebody has a uniform on, it's not going to all of a sudden like arrest those impulses.
And think about the toll that seeing all of this bad policing around the country takes on somebody too, especially black people. Okay, so in this country, black people are killed at more than double the rate as white people. When we're talking about people killed by police officers, more than double the rate black people are killed than white people. Black people make up like 13% of the population, yet somehow we're killed at double the rate. Now, is it because we are more criminally responsible? I mean, like we commit more crimes. I don't think we commit more crimes, but I do believe that police officers are in more of our neighborhoods.
And specifically, like if we're talking about I guess situations involving brutality or of any kind, even if it's not somebody getting shot, like are the actions of those who are classified as black typically much different than those that people are not classified as black?
Yeah.
Are their actions and behaviors during those interactions with law enforcement that much more different to warrant such different outcomes?
Like I'm not gonna put all of this on racism. I'm not gonna do it because, as we have noted before, there are black cops that do the same thing, right? That have bad shoots, you know, they have bad technique, bad tactics, just bad policing in general. So it's not, I'm not gonna put it all on like it's a white and black thing, even though it was funny, or it was interesting that the superintendent McDonough, he was asked a question about the race of the officer, and his response was, what does that have to do with anything? The hell it, you know exactly what it has to do with anything. Like, that is a problem. Like, we need to understand that it is a problem. Racism, how white cops deal with black individuals, that is a significant issue, but it's not the only issue. Part of the issue is how policing is geared towards patrolling in minority neighborhoods.
And it doesn't matter who you have patrolling those neighborhoods. It doesn't matter the classification of the officer. It what matters is the classification of the victims. In the system of white supremacy, there are going to be people who look like those people that are marginalized who participate in it. Yep. And everyone internalizes the same bullshit. So the thing to do is not to look at the supposed victimizers. Right. You look at who is the victim. That's how you determine what their policies are based on. So it doesn't matter whether the cop is black, Hispanic, or white, or purple, or blue, because blue is apparently a race now, or a group.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It matters who the targets are.
And the last thing on this, the superintendent McDonald said that based on witness statements, he said he believes that the officers gave Antwon and the other occupant verbal commands. He didn't know the specific command, but he said that he does believe that they were given commands. Now, the interesting thing to note here is that neither officer that was on the scene had body cams. There was also no dash cams on the vehicles. So when you saw the video, there was that one police officer's car, the police cruiser that was stopped, and that officer was putting the driver in custody. The other two bolted, right? There was another police cruiser driving up to the scene just as they are leaving. Now, maybe that's what prompted them to leave. We have no idea. We can just speculate at this time. But that police cruiser that was coming up on the scene, had that cruiser had the dash cam activated or equipped. I don't even know if it was equipped, but if it had the video capability, then it would have been able to catch the individuals bolting from the scene. You may have caught something that, the woman that was capturing the video from quite a ways away wasn't able to capture on film. So this is irresponsible. In 2018, with all of these cases that we see across the nation, you don't have your officers equipped with body cams, and your police cruisers do not have dash cams in today's day.
Irresponsible in what way, Will? In what context?
Irresponsible because if we want accountability, you know how some of these police chiefs and just these senior officials, they say, hey, we want to be transparent.
But if they don't want to be accountable,
then they won't equip those vehicles. They won't equip their officers with body cams.
So their responsibility lies in the fact that they don't want to be held accountable. So it's responsible in a certain context if they want to make sure
that they want to protect their own.
Yeah, that's it.
It's disgusting, man. It's disgusting. These are the type of things that happened or that still do happen. I think we're still on. Yeah.
Mo saying it's buffering. That's all.
But yeah, these are the things that. Hold on. All right. But yeah, these are the things that still happen to this day, where it looks like hold on. All right, I think we having some signal problems here for some reason.
Yeah, been noticing people in the comment section saying it's buffering, so saying our stream is very weak. It's in the red, so
which makes
no sense. There's nothing about nothing changed, so it's just YouTube that changes. Guarantee I do a speed check and everything be fine. A speed check, yeah,
everything will be just fine. But doesn't look like we're on right now. Says it just keeps skipping. All right, we're gonna give it just a couple seconds. Usually it fixes itself. Still skipping, I believe.
Yeah, and the problem is if it's skipping, that means that's not capturing where and the show is there, but that's no good to the people who are watching. And even when the only way the show is being recorded. Now, it is being recorded through the software processing. It's not going to catch those frames. It can't. It's basically, YouTube is basically catching the show based on the frames it can get. So if it's skipping, there's going to be frames missing from the final product.
Not a damn thing that we can do about this right now. What is this? All right. Well, let's let me check the draft. You know,
Damn.
Porter did get drafted.
What number?
He got drafted, I think it was 14 to the Denver Nuggets. Wow, I can't believe he went that low, man. Off.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it just shut us off.
All right, you know what? We're gonna. All right.
If y'all can hear us,
it's green now. All right, it looks like we're good now.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on.
So as soon as we pump fake,
I was about to shut it off.
Like we about to shut it off, it comes back on.
This is, and we're not doing anything. Like we're just sitting here, just waiting for it to correct itself.
It's not like it has to process a lot of movement. We're not like dancing. You know what I'm saying? We're not like.
But anyway, I think the last thing I just wanted to say on that is that all throughout the country, even now today, in situations with police officers, I know there's situations that don't get captured on film. And today, I think most do, but it's always been a problem. Think about, 10, 20, 30, 40. I mean, just think about years ago when you really never, ever saw video footage of people's encounters with police officers. You would just have to take the word of the police officer because he's a decorated veteran and he wouldn't lie, and they would never get charged. They would never get they could just do whatever the hell they want to do because we have no evidence. Whoever's claiming abuse has nothing backing them up. And so here in 2018, we have a situation where there's no body cams, no dash cams. I don't understand how that is even allowed to happen.
I mean, Moose Gal says even if they have dash and body cameras, what's to stop cops from shutting them off? Yeah, I mean
that's true.
That is true. But that's what ifs and what they could possibly do in the event that they're decorated with body cams. That's really not a concern.
It still has to be there.
It still has to be there, and we can deal with that. If that occurs, there should be more accountability in regards to them how they treat their body cameras as far as operationally. So yeah, I mean we'll just have to wait till it gets there. There has to be some sort of accountability in regard to that equipment, because again, they work for the state, they work for the government. So that's really not even their equipment. That equipment is supposed to record their job as it pertains to them being a civil servant.
Accountability, man. Transparency, right? All right, let's go to the other one. So because I feel like if we get to the other. If we get to the other story, we're not going to get to these other ones. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to the Supreme Court case. The South Dakota.
Yeah.
Right. So on Thursday, in a 5-4 vote, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the South Dakota law requiring out-of-state retailers to collect the sales tax on purchases. So in doing so, the court overturned a 1992 court precedent asserting that states could not force retailers with no physical presence in a state to collect their sales tax. So this is from The Hill. And it says the case centered on South Dakota's 2016 law that requires out-of-state online sellers to collect the state's sales taxes if the companies have more than $100,000 in annual sales of products to South Dakota residents, or more than 200 separate transactions for the delivery of goods and services to state residents.
That's what's the threshold? $100,000.
$100,000.
Now, as far as like certain states collecting taxes via online sales, there's actually states that already do that. There are states that. So I'm a little torn on this because I do think tax policy should adjust itself based on what age we're in the digital age. You see what I'm saying? So if if that's the kind of direction we're going in, as far as like consumer traffic is going digital, that's the model we're in. So why can't we adjust our tax policy based on that?
So okay, so the people on the side of South Dakota, so they argued that Supreme Court decision, that 1992 Supreme Court decision, put brick and mortar businesses at a disadvantage because they do have to collect the sales taxes. And so online businesses, they don't have to have an actual physical footprint in a state, and they do business all around the country, and they're able to offer products virtually at a lower price because they don't have to collect that sales tax.
Now, I was thinking about the sales tax, but I was also thinking about how most of the time getting things from online, you get a wholesale price. So not only do you get the wholesale price, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So that may affect the local businesses, whether there's, and when I say local, I mean any business that's in that area. So, bigger businesses may get swept up in that comment, but particularly I'm talking about even smaller businesses as well.
Now, the other side of that, the other side that argues that this is a bad decision. One of those people is Senator Ron Wyden, who's a Democrat from Oregon. He's also the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, and he called the decision catastrophic. He also said the Supreme Court has given the green light for states to establish an underground, nationwide, privatized tax collecting bureaucracy. With this ruling, sellers from other countries won't have to collect tax, which will give them a big leg up over American producers and sellers. Now, I don't know. It's a persuasive argument because, again, if you're trying to, you want to make the United States stronger, right? You want to make businesses, entrepreneurs stronger. You want them to be able to grow their businesses, because if you do that, that will affect our economy in a very positive way. But by forcing the sales tax, or forcing businesses to collect the sales tax, essentially what you're doing is you would stunt business growth. You would stunt the growth of some online retailers. So there could be a case where retailers from overseas could step in and say, hey, we got these prices lower. Okay, then that's why you offer adjustments to ideas that are put forth. Yeah. What is preventing them from, I guess, implementing the same tax requirement for offshore purchases as well? Well, then that would have to be like a tariff or something. Okay, then. I don't know how they would do that, but I mean, if we're talking about putting businesses at a disadvantage, how can we have this conversation without talking about states that can't collect sales tax revenue? How is that affecting their infrastructure? That's true. Because a lot of how states fund certain projects, they do it through sales tax. See, and so it's so you're gonna suffer on the front end, on the back end. That's where I look at this in two different ways, because one, you're right about collecting the sales tax. It does fund different programs, schools and infrastructure, just a lot of different things. It can fund these local communities, but there's a but to that. Yeah. Do we trust these local governments to actually fund the right things? Because as we see too many times on the regular, what they will do with this money is cut taxes for big business that is in the community or in the city. And then that will lead to the cuts in all these other programs, like education. So it's not that it's a bad idea. We just don't live in a system to where good ideas amount to something significantly beneficial to the American people. Right. So, in theory, that would be good. I think it would be good. To a degree, it would be good. I think the only probably one, snag in the thread would be specifically county and city taxes. Yeah. But I mean, computers calculate things at a high rate anyway, so I don't see why something like that would be an issue. I think your main focus is whether these things could be implemented honestly and with integrity. So that's your argument. It's not the idea is bad. It's about, I guess, what environment is the idea being put forth in. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, and then, the several big retailers did try to argue against this as well, like Wayfair and Newegg. I think Overstock.com as well. And I mean, now those are big retailers. I mean, they you know, very profitable retailers. But they're also trying to make the case that smaller retailers and growing online businesses, maybe they will not have the resources to, I guess, calculate all these different sales taxes in all these different jurisdictions. Now, there could be there could be some software that does that.
I think it should be, if that's the case, if there is some sort. But see, is software even necessary in this? I mean, like, no, it would have to be, because essentially, if it's your website, it's not like. Because I know, like the company I used to work for. I mean, obviously the register software that we use, it calculated all the sales tax and took it out. Right. Now the company itself has to report that on their ledger, and they separate that out. So the government doesn't know how much the company made in sales tax until it's reported. Okay. And the computers, I guess the application does it, you know, for the company. Right.
But you would have to have like software that we're talking about. We don't know how many.
Software that kind of ties to your website that calculates everything.
Yeah, and it's not just one set rate.
It calculates each state and updates according to how these states update their tax structure as well.
That's
where
tedious.
There might be a change. And it might affect small businesses more than large businesses. But like I said, with all ideas have to come, I guess,
updates to the system or something.
Well, not just updates
in policy or
updates in policy, just kind of like I guess more ironing out the details to these ideas, ironing out the flaws in them. Right. That's the point of discussing whether these things are beneficial. So I don't know. I mean, I think they would have to be, to me, I just don't like that part of it where they're leaving it up to the seller. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But yeah, so going forward, at least as of right now, your online shopping could become more expensive because if it seems like this is paving the way for other states to implement their own implement their own laws, just like South Dakota, because this is a U.S. Supreme Court precedent now. You know, so like I said, purchases might get a little bit more expensive. Let's go to the government.
The government consolidation.
Project. The government consolidation project. On Thursday, the Trump administration issued a proposal to shrink the size of the federal government and merge certain departments together. Like Mike said, the what?
Government consolidation project or plan or whatever you want to.
Unofficially, that's what we're calling it. But under the proposal, the Department of Education and the Department of Labor would become one department. Also, welfare and food aid programs would shift into a new Department of Health and Public Welfare. The director of the Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney, that wonderful guy.
That was a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Milk Mulvaney.
Milk Mulvaney. He said in a statement, "This effort, along with the recent executive orders on federal unions, are the biggest pieces so far of our plan to drain the swamp. The federal government is bloated, opaque, bureaucratic, and inefficient. President Trump understands the frustration felt by hardworking Americans."
Like,
drain the swamp.
I see. As soon as like you put that talking point out there, I'm already looking at what you with the side eye. Yeah. Because draining the swamp really kind of centered upon corruption, not necessarily like how big something was, because how big something is doesn't make it corrupt. It's how it operates. And so I don't know.
So what does that have to do with consolidating government programs or consolidating government bureaus and agencies? That has nothing to do with draining the swamp.
No, I see what they're trying to do, because one thing that you did mention, and a big part of their plan, was to take welfare or SNAP funding outside of the Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
See that
shifted into the new department.
Yeah, that way they can give agribusiness their welfare money, the big agribusiness welfare program funding, without having to worry about those pesky poor people applying for SNAP,
pulling them down.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because those two things are always tied to one another, seeing as it has to do with food. That's why it was
agriculture
in that department.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
But see, now those fundings can be separated.
Hey,
really slick,
you know, there's like I said, the new department would be the Department of Health and Public Welfare. I'm wondering if there will be a new Department of Corporate Welfare.
Why not separate that out too?
Yeah, we haven't. There's no word on the Department of Corporate Welfare. That's interesting. Maybe they just didn't get around to announcing that yet. Maybe we gotta wait for more announcements. But anyway, much of this proposal will have to go through Congress, and this is something that Congress has not been willing to do in past years. So if Trump does want to consolidate these departments and shift SNAP, into this new Department of Public Welfare, Health and Public Welfare, it will have to go through Congress, and I'm just not sure how receptive to the idea Congress is going to be. Of course, there will be more Republicans that are receptive to it, but it hasn't worked in years past. So there's nothing suggesting that it will work at this point. This seems to be just some shot in the dark, really.
Oh no, it's definitely a shot in the dark because they're trying to consolidate some other departments, right? I think it's the Department of Labor.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's the Department of Labor and Department of Education. Yeah, they want to make that one department.
Departments that have two completely different roles.
Why would you consolidate that into one department?
Not only that, like I want to know who is going to head that department.
Oh, I got somebody. How about the current head of the Department
somebody
of Education?
Who is so wait a second. Somebody who is proven to be not even qualified for one department is now going to run a consolidation of departments?
Maybe Ben Carson? I'm just throwing names out there. They're doing such a great job for the administration.
It just seems as if they're trying to destroy both of those departments. See, I mean, think about it. Think about what the Department of Labor does, though. They protect the rights of workers.
They do. And you just mentioned not too long ago what Trump said on the campaign trail about lowering wages, lowering the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. That's first of all, he shouldn't be at the helm anyways. Right? If somebody has some language like that, he shouldn't be at the helm. But he is, and he wants to merge the education department with the labor department. That doesn't seem like it's going to be in the best interest of workers.
I mean, the thing is, once you combine the agencies, I think their whole agenda would have to be redefined. Not only would it have to be redefined, it would have to be reapplied.
Because it would be confusing.
Because it would be confusing. So you actually have to come up with an entirely a new agenda. Because the hierarchy would definitely have to change. Because you would not keep the same hierarchies because they have their own administrators. So now that they're combined, you have to completely change everything. You have to completely change who reports to who. Otherwise, if you don't do that, there will be no point in combining them. Why don't we
combine, I don't know, the DEA with agriculture?
I mean, they do deal with controlled substances.
They do.
And I can go out on the limb and just consider vegetables and fruits to be controlled substances.
I'm just saying,
I can just go out on a limb and make that claim if I wanted to.
But see, it wouldn't make any sense.
It wouldn't make any sense.
You would have dual roles if you worked for this agency, this new agency that is combined with labor and education. You would have like dual. It would be like it would still be split because one doesn't have to do with the other. So why group them together if they're always going to be separate?
Because White House officials say that labor relates to education.
Yeah, labor, because education has to do with labor because you have workers there, but it doesn't deal with education per se.
No, it doesn't. I think they're using the word labor loosely. That's
very loosely.
That's what they're trying to do to sell
very
this.
Loosely,
like this has like the Department of Labor has to do with like things like protecting the interest of the worker. You know, like establishing safety guidelines, OSHA standards, minimum wage standards, keeping track of like employment statistics,
right?
All of that stuff.
Safety,
has to do with labor analysis. That's what that has to do, not necessarily like establishing some sort of workforce. That's not their primary role. That's not their primary role. I think they're using the word labor very loosely here.
But we do want a sixth branch of the military, though.
Oh, so when he was talking about consolidation and draining the swamp, making it less bureaucratic,
less bloated,
you don't. Oh, so you don't think a United Space Fleet is gonna bloat things at all?
Well, I mean, look, we're not in outer space. We don't know the wars that are being waged there, right?
Oh yeah, man. Starship Troopers.
Right.
Exactly. We don't know.
We have no idea.
We don't know.
I don't own a telescope.
Yo, we don't know. It could be big bugs out there, bro. Could be big bugs out there.
So that's not bloated. That is not the definition of bloated, but you know, all the department employees within the Department of Labor and Department
requesting
bloated.
more federal
bloated.
funds for Border Patrol and ICE.
While suggesting that funds for Department of Education be cut.
That's not bloated at all.
So you want to cut funding for the Department of Education, and you want to confuse the workers that are responsible for like maintaining education standards nationwide and just making sure that everybody has a fair shot at education.
Like, you know, it's going I don't know, like I can foresee there being issues with things like government grants and scholarships. You see what I'm saying? Now that you've consolidated this, how is that going to affect that?
It's ridiculous, man.
How is that going to affect federal funding for education? You know what I'm saying? And how that funding is divvied out.
All right. So let's get to the other police brutality, police aggressiveness, overreach, man. Just absurd policing. Just unreasonable, just completely unreasonable. This really hasn't had a lot of coverage. We really only saw this on one website, and we saw some videos about this as well on YouTube.
Happened months ago too.
No, yeah,
it just got uploaded.
That's right. Yeah, it happened a few months ago, but attention is being drawn to it because the woman that it happened to, she just uploaded the film or the video footage on YouTube. I guess she was waiting to get the footage from the body cam of the officer that she was dealing with. So a woman in Illinois was arrested a few months ago, seemingly because she would not give up her right to record officers with her cell phone. So it was Officer John Bonkowski of the Justice Police Department, and he repeatedly cursed at the woman, and she goes by the name Chi-Town Sue on her YouTube channel. This Officer Bonkowski, he demanded that she stop following him and the other officers and stop recording them as well. So at one point, Officer Bonkowski grabs her phone, throws it, but Chi-Town Sue is a very resourceful woman, and she had another cell phone all prepped and ready to go right at the ready. So she grabbed that cell phone as well. She began recording again. It was at that point that Officer Bonkowski had enough, and he arrested her. So we're going to show you some video footage. It begins with Chi-Town Sue following another police officer. Okay, so this was another police. They were in her area, and they were conducting some official police business. They were looking for somebody. Okay, and we'll get to the the reason behind that after we get to her dealings with the police officer. But like I said, this first video begins with her following the first officer, and then you're gonna see her confrontation with the officer Bonkowski.
Ironwood's the next street over.
Why are you recording me?
Why not? You're in my park with no jurisdiction. So I'm just curious to know. You don't have any jurisdiction in here. What's going on? Where's the lights and sirens?
What is it? Hold on.
Yo, go in your house.
Hell no. I live around here. Can I help you? You guys looking for somebody? Maybe I saw somebody.
Get the fuck out of here if you get arrested.
Fuck you, dude. What are you gonna arrest me for? Being held accountable for you, bro.
I'm telling you, you're gonna get arrested.
I dare you.
Huh? Go off running, man. This way.
That's right.
You're gonna back up, you understand? Or you're gonna get arrested, you understand?
For what?
Get going.
For what?
Get going now.
Why are you gonna arrest me?
You're gonna get arrested, I'm telling you
I've
right
already
now.
dealt with your sergeant.
You already know that.
I've already dealt with your
I'm
sergeant.
giving you
Thank
fair warning. You keep following us, you're
I'm
gonna get
allowed to
arrested.
follow. Now you're
You
following
understand?
me.
You understand?
Yeah, piece of shit.
Okay? Now go back in your house or you're getting arrested. You understand?
For what? I'm walking around my neighborhood.
Now we're fucking dealing with something serious. I'm telling you, you're gonna get arrested.
For what?
Put your fucking hands behind your back now.
For what?
Put your hands behind your back.
For filming?
Well, we're fucking dealing with something serious. You ain't gonna fucking follow us. You understand that?
I'm just watching.
It's called obstructing. You understand?
It's not if I'm just watching. I'm not in your way.
I don't care. You ain't gonna film us and follow us. Or we're fucking dealing with somebody with a possible gun.
Well, just
Understand?
tell me that. Tell me that.
I fucking told you.
You told me to go in. You didn't say possible gun. I would have been gone.
So now if I let you out of this cuffs, are you gonna go in your house? Or do you want to get arrested?
Sure, I'll go in my house.
All right.
As long as you don't follow me.
Fucking dealing with something more serious than
You're looking
fucking
for a man
dealing with
with a
you.
gun, and you're gonna deal with me.
Yeah, you fucking pull. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you're gonna get fucking arrested then. That's fine.
All I am doing is walking around the park. I saw you guys coming. Then I figured I'm gonna
I
follow
see you
and
following
what's
one of my
going on.
other officers.
Yeah, because I was walking
creeping
around.
up on him on this fucking side of the trailer. I seen you.
I ran back in my yard.
Camera will
Yes,
fucking
in
show
my
it,
yard.
okay?
In my yard, and I wasn't anywhere near him. Supreme Court says 10 feet. I'm way beyond 10 feet.
I don't give a fuck.
I would
You ain't
never
gonna
go up to
follow
any
us.
police
You ain't gonna
officer
follow
like
us. You understand that?
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
I'll go.
So before we say, I mean that video was courtesy of Chi-Town Sue, who uploaded it to her YouTube channel, and Black Label Cop Watch. They put together the video from Chi-Town Sue and the officers' body cam footage as well. They synced it up. So that's amazing. The first officer that she was following, you heard him say, like, why are you recording us? Or why are you recording me? And she's like, hey, this is my right. I can record you. I don't even know why you're here. You don't even have any jurisdiction here. So she's just doing what she's allowed to do per the First Amendment.
Now, okay, from that point, I'm sure the cop heard her say, you don't have any jurisdiction here. Now, whether she knows he does or, have jurisdiction or not, that's not the point. Mm-hmm. Obviously, what is it? Village? What's it called?
The Village of Justice.
Village of Justice. So
yeah. Those were justice police officers.
So yes, if they were dealing with a situation in an area where they did have jurisdiction, mm-hmm. and they chased some people into another area, okay, they have the right to be there. That's not really the point. That's not really the issue. The issue is, once he heard that, he could have said, "Hey, we're dealing with a police emergency, dealing with a gun, and we might, want you to get back inside." But I don't even think legally that's an order she would have to follow.
I don't think so.
No.
Like, at the end of the video, she's saying, yeah, Supreme Court says 10 feet. I'm well beyond 10 feet. I'm within my rights. Anyway, you can hear the aggressiveness of Officer Bonkowski right away. Hey, get back in your house. He starts cursing at her. She's like, nah, man, you ain't gonna arrest me. I'm nowhere near you. I'm following the Supreme Court. I'm well within my rights. This is my First Amendment rights. I'm gonna keep recording. She's like, I can't even, because you can't really tell how far away she is, but I would guesstimate she's at least 20 yards away. I'm trying to picture like a football field. It seems like she's like 20 yards away, at least 15, right? At the very least, 15 feet. 15 yards away, right? So this officer Bonkowski is his feathers are being so ruffled because he's being videotaped and being followed. At some point in the video, while he has already had this woman in handcuffs, he's like, I don't know if you got a gun.
I don't know who you are.
I don't know who you are.
You can have a gun. Okay, let's take him at his word when he said that. If that's the case, and you are concerned that somebody's following you, has a gun, which again was obvious that she had a phone in her hand, and she specifically said, "I'm recording you." So let's just say that that's the case. Is that how he acts to someone who he thinks that has a gun? Wouldn't you like immediately search them? Now she did actually call his bluff when she was handcuffed, and because when he said that, he was like, okay. When she check me, check me. What did he do? What was his response? His response was like, nah. I was like, wait a second, she's trying to call your bluff. If you really think this woman is armed, why don't you actually frisk her for weapons?
But see, that wasn't even within his rights, though, because she's just in her neighborhood. It doesn't matter if he feels like threatened because she's 20 yards behind him.
That's what I'm saying. He knew he was full of shit. He was just saying that because, like, I guess that gave him a reason for cuffing her. Just feeling annoyed. He wanted to do something because he felt annoyed. He was using that as an excuse. Well, I thought she had a gun. But I was like, I'm like, wait a second. He
wanted her to feel the authority. It was
like, wait a second. It was a cell phone. Like, I can't imagine this dude, like, on public transit where people have their phones out. Is he just going like, phones everywhere? No.
It's ridiculous, man. No. But, like, you saw the whole interaction, the aggressiveness, the language from this officer. So they're doing something, conducting official business. And again, we're going to get to that. But he takes his attention away from official police business to deal with somebody.
You mean like Super Trooper?
Yes.
You mean like the Super Trooper
at the pool party.
Yeah.
Takes your attention away from some real stuff, right? Whatever you perceive as real stuff, some real official police work. And your attention is now focused on somebody that is not committing a crime, somebody that is just following the law, exercising their rights, and videotaping police officers, public servants.
Okay, now what was this kind of whole thing about in the first place? Why did the police officers come to this little neighborhood or this park?
So you heard him talking to after he had put the cuffs on her. He said, we're dealing with somebody that has a possible gun, and, I got to be here messing around with you, and, whatever, language, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you didn't even tell me that. He's like, yeah, I did. He didn't tell her that. I know we fast forward some parts because this is a very long video, but he never said that to her before he did when she was in handcuffs. So she said, yo, if you would have just told me that, I would have been out of here because, if it's an unsafe situation, I'll be in my home. Okay, but he never said that. So he's trying to find somebody, and he says that somebody that has a possible gun. Okay.
Yeah. Apparently the police were shot at, and apparently the three men ran into that park.
Right. So we have video from Officer Bonkowski's body cam. Okay, and it is his encounter with he is trying to find in this community.
Where are you guys coming from?
What did I do, sir?
Are you coming from the train tracks?
What did I do, sir?
Huh?
What did I do?
Just one male black runner, and I think he's got his 32.
So that's who they were looking for. And like you said, I believe the police have said that he fit the description of the person that pulled a gun or shot at whoever. So that's why they, Officer Bonkowski went up to him and looked like performed an illegal search.
Well, it looked like the guy kind of met him and walked towards him.
Yeah, walked towards him. And Officer Bonkowski, like the individual, he pulled up his shirt, he turned around. You saw no gun. You saw no gun at all. But he took off running. He's like, "What did I do, sir? What did I do?" He took off running. So Officer Bonkowski says that, yeah, this dude has a gun.
Has
okay,
a 32. That's what
32.
And see, again, like, why is that irresponsible? Even though he did not actually see a gun for himself, why is that irresponsible? And he actually, towards the end of the video, I guess when his supervisor came and when I guess somebody else in his department came, he was explaining the story to them.
Right.
He told them that the person reached for his waist.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he told.
I think at one point he said, yeah, he pulled the gun.
He pulled the gun. So my thing, regardless of what, the kid running away, why did the cop, I guess, misrepresent the situation? Or why did he fabricate the situation? Again, if he feels he's there for a justified reason, I'm okay with that. But why misrepresent what happened in that engagement with the guy with the Bulls hoodie on?
Right.
Why misrepresent or fabricate what happened in that situation? So the question shouldn't be, well, why did the guy run? The question you should ask is, why did the cop feel the need to fabricate what happened?
So we have two instances of bad policing here. Because one is his encounter and his confrontation and arrest of Chi-Town Sue. And two, his encounter with the individual that he's trying to find now. Because like Mike said, he's on the radio telling other police officers, this guy's got a 32. He pulled his gun. Now think about if they actually found him. Would they have shot first?
Yeah, because the one of their trusted officers, their trusted fellow officers who would never lie, had already told them this guy has a 32.
Exactly.
Even though, I guess, from what we saw in the body cam, there was no gun visible.
There was no gun.
And also, he was with other individuals. So if they lost him, right, and they thought he was the guy, wouldn't it be smart to question those other guys that were with him?
But they let them go. they never even approached them. And all of this is pretty much irrelevant to the situation with Chi-Town Sue, because the confrontation that she had with Officer John Bonkowski was totally inappropriate. She was within her rights to do exactly what she did. She was several yards away from any police officers trying to conduct official police business. Bonkowski said that it was obstruction.
Oh, and he also said that, you just trying to get paid too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. At one point he did say that.
He was suggesting that, she was trying to purposely get involved in a confrontation so she could file a lawsuit. But I'm thinking merely recording doesn't result in a lawsuit.
What is the one thing that has to happen?
Oh, no.
What's the one thing
that
has
to happen is, I guess, police interaction. His interaction with her would determine that.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, he proved her point.
Yeah. She has to capture him doing something wrong. Him or any other officer. She has to capture them doing something wrong. You're just trying to get paid. So you're admitting that you do things wrong all the time? You're just not capturing on video film?
But if it's about her getting paid, how does merely recording them, I guess, accomplish that? Just merely recording them doing something is not going to get her paid. It's not going to get her a settlement from the city. That doesn't even make sense.
Man, it's ridiculous, man. And, of course, we got that troll in here, Ron. Follow the law. She was following the law, buddy. She was following the law. She got arrested anyway. So, like I said, this happened a couple months ago, and it's only coming out earlier this month. I believe it was last week that the video footage was actually released. So, I don't think this has been settled at all. The Justice Police Department, I believe they did make a statement saying that, yeah, they did. They are aware of the video footage out there and, the case.
Roid rage.
Yeah.
They're aware of the roid rage.
Yeah, because that dude, oh my, he's screaming so loud. Like, I'm sure, like, the audio levels were horrible for people that were watching it just now. Because he's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's just trying to assert his authority on somebody that is not violating any laws whatsoever.
And think about this. He actually showed no interest in the law, actually.
No, he didn't care at all.
He didn't care. He just cared that
just do what I say.
He just cared that he's annoyed.
Yep. I'm annoyed. Do what I say. I don't care if you're following law.
And didn't he actually say, hey, if I take you out of these cuffs, will you go home? She said,
she says, yeah, I'll go home.
I'll go home.
No, well, yeah, he asked her. He said, you want to go to jail, or you want to? If I take you out to jail, you want to go home? And she's like, I'll go home. And then there was like a few more words of interaction where I guess he felt like she was still being disrespectful. He was like, you know what? All right, you going to jail. You going to jail.
Yeah,
so,
because it was more about his annoyance.
Yes, so it wasn't about her breaking the law or doing anything wrong. It was about him being annoyed by this woman.
And again, like how many times did she ask him? Okay, what are you going to arrest me for? What are you going to arrest me for? He did not have an answer. He just said, I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to arrest you. And
because you can't find a statute that she's breaking.
That's literally like, how like a little siblings act. Like, I'm going to tell mom. That's kind of how he sounded.
That's what he did.
He really didn't have an argument.
And just got so upset at nothing. And then maybe he was on them steroids.
And ultimately he said something about obstruction. But I'm just like, she wasn't preventing them from doing their jobs.
Again, she's like at least 20 yards behind them.
Again. And she's only recording. She's not like I said, she's not like I said, like a little brother, a little sibling. I'm not touching you. She wasn't doing that.
No. And then the first officer that she was recording, she was much closer to that individual. Now, it seems like he didn't want to be recorded anyway because he asked her the question, why are you recording me? So it seemed like he didn't want to be recorded anyway. Fine, that's cool. You know what? But he didn't say, you got to stop recording. You got to stop following me, because obviously he knew that you couldn't ask this individual to stop what she was doing because she was breaking no laws.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand why people this seems like a go-to for people who are bigots and or racist or just completely dumb. But I keep seeing this this constant talking point when people want to talk about police brutality, even though the subject is police brutality. For some reason, people like to bring up crime in Chicago. The interesting part about people bringing up crime in Chicago as if somehow that's some sort of I guess conversation stopper. That's a conversation stopper.
Oh, you got us.
Actually, Chicago is not the most violent city. So why does people always talk about Chicago and gun violence that's usually related to gang violence? And also, you don't give a fuck either. Because if you actually, read into crime prevention, you would recognize that there are local task forces and organizations put together and who come together to deal with crime in cities just like Chicago. So that's already being handled, man.
You forgot one thing though.
What?
It's not just that they bring up Chicago and the black on black killing, right?
Yeah.
They also say that there's no outrage.
That's because you don't see it.
Exactly, because you don't want to see it, because you don't care to see it.
That's because you're going like this. Yeah. It doesn't exist because you're like this. So I don't know where that comes from. And you know what's funny? It's like why am I responsible for crime going on 2,000 miles away? Do you see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Why am I personally responsible as a black person for crime in another city 2,000 miles away with people who I don't know, who I have nothing to do with? That seems to only apply to black people, though. You notice that?
But why does it lessen the crimes of officers?
Exactly. Explain that to us, Ron John. Yeah. Explain that to us.
Like there's crime in Chicago.
There's crime in Chicago. So how does that address?
Yeah. How does it make this acceptable or permissible.
And I also find it interesting that you're holding gang members and those who perpetrate criminal activity to the same standard as law enforcement that we pay taxes for.
Yeah, they're supposed to be beyond reproach.
They're supposed to be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, like, legally, who do we go to solve the problems of crime, especially gang crime? We go to police officers. Also, we don't have any say in what gang members or criminals do. You don't just, I'm not walking up to criminals and people who want to commit crime and thinking that I can influence their actions, but through our activism, we can influence the actions of our local officials, our civil servants. That's our duty because they are part of the government.
You know, another thing too is there's a funny thing that happens when, you know, like regular people, even if they're not affiliated with gangs or if they are in gangs and they're committing all these crimes in Chicago or other places, there's a funny thing that usually happens to them.
What's that, Will? What's that?
They usually get charged and convicted.
Oh, that's right. So when all these criminals in Chicago that you're talking about commit crime, they're usually sought after, apprehended, arrested, and then charged, and then sent to jail.
That's right. Yep. For the most part, for the overwhelming most part, they end up paying for their crimes. Now, on the other side, can the same be said of police officers that abuse their privileges, their authority?
I don't know. Maybe he should call up later in the show and give us that answer.
You know he ain't gonna call. But anyway, like I said, all that video was courtesy of Chi-Town Sue and Black Label Cop Watch. So, like I said, man, that's just another instance of bad policing, police officers overstepping their authority, police brutality, and all this, man. That also sells the point that officers need to be equipped with body cams. They absolutely do.
Because there's nothing like to kind of dial down their own kind of those negative personal traits that we all have as human beings. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing there to dial that down or to prompt them to dial it down or to prompt them to. It's almost like I guess body cams act as a governor.
But not in this case. But I understand what you're saying, because you would think that, okay, so this police officer, they know they're being recorded, so if they didn't have it on, maybe they would act worse. But having that thing on, they're like, okay, you know what? I really got to be on my P's and Q's. I can't like overstep my authority. I can't go brutalizing civilians because this thing is captured on video. I'm going to be about my official business. I'm not going to step on the rights of anybody. But Officer Bonkowski? Just imagine if he didn't have the body cam. Chi-Town Sue might have had her head cracked open.
She might have had an elbow to the skull, man. You just never know. So if she was treated like that with body cameras being present.
All right, man. So yeah, man, that's the that's the broadcast, really. I mean, well, that's all we had to get to tonight. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this thing up for taking calls. We want to hear from you. You know, any of these stories that we've covered, we want to hear your take on it. We want to see, where you're coming from, your analysis of it. So please, if you would like to call into the program, the number is 669-900-6833, and we'll be sure to get you on and get your thoughts out there. So, let's set this thing out. All right. Damn, I don't remember which one that was. I think that's yours. Hold on, let me put this. You know how this thing works now. Hold on, you can't. Don't put it on yet. Don't put it on yet. For some reason, I gotta put mine on first and let it. Hold on. Nope, the thing ain't on yet.
So like this slow blink. Okay, now it's on.
Yours is on?
Mm-hmm.
All right, mine's on. Now, how did it work like that now?
I have no clue, dog. It automatically cut on, bro.
All right. All right. So, somebody asked, "What you drinking tonight, Ron?" Ron might be on them steroids too.
Yeah, man. Don't call Ron a troll. I know. I saw some of that troll language or whatever everybody was using. Oh, I think we have a troll. But even if he is a troll lives matter too. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Even if he
maybe they can get their own class of people.
Yeah, man.
Be a protected group.
Be a protected group, man. They need to be protected, man. Mm-hmm. Protected from themselves, but nonetheless protected.
All right. Just give us 1 second here. Using computer audio. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Let me just make sure this audio works. Yeah.
Never saw that message before?
Usually it says the okay. All right, all right, so I think we're ready to take the first caller. All right, first caller is coming from the 443. What's going on tonight? You're on the air live with LTMB Live.
What's going on, Will? What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, man? The people calling for you in the chat section, I'm telling you, they be like, man, I hope Court calls tonight. Court better call,
man.
They want more of you, bro.
Yeah, I try not to let that shit go to my head, man. So, so I wanted to talk about the instances of police brutality, misbehavior that you guys brought up, and I wanted to talk some more about the immigrant situation that's been going on lately. So that story with the lady in the end. Okay, so the one where Antwon got shot, it's not going to be arguable because the way it's been set up is it was a drive-by shooting response, and even though that other guy was armed. And I had heard about this story earlier, but I didn't hear about that other guy being armed. And that's probably because I'm getting civilian news sources and I don't dig as much as you guys do. But now that I know that they say that guy shot back, I mean, that even makes it more egregious to me because, like, it's like, did he shoot? Did he start? What happened? And then he gets shot. But no, you're not going to be able to argue that because the vehicle was involved in a drive-by. So his guilt is already assumed, period. Like, whether you want to believe that's right or not is irrelevant because with the current climate, you know, if there was some type of violent crime that had happened before the incident, nobody like who supports the police like that is really going. And I shouldn't say supports the police like that because I support the police, but what I should say, nobody who wants to never hold the police accountable because they like it when the police brutalize minorities, they're going to have a field day with this. They're just going to have a field day with it. And it sucks because he was unarmed and he didn't get a trial and he never got questioned. He was never given the benefit of the doubt. And now when you flash forward to the last clip you showed where it was a white woman who was following the cops and documenting what they were doing because she was, you know, curious as to what's going on with them in her neighborhood. You know, she gets screamed on. She does. She gets screamed on, but you know what else she gets? She gets the opportunity to de-escalate. She's not going to get shot. You know what I mean? She's not going to get, especially since he was on camera. I mean, she's not going to get her eye socket cracked. You know what I mean? Like this is what is so frustrating about it because to follow the letter of the law in America is to condone members of the majority race. It's not necessary. It's innocence before guilt, you know, and that's what's so frustrating about it. And his authority is what the main driver of that situation. Because if she really wanted to harass them and and like start shit with them, she would have continued to follow them after they had given her a good reason not to. Like if they said, man, we're concerned about your safety, we believe these people have guns, please, we don't know if they're going to start shooting or not. Like if he had explained it to her like that, I'm pretty sure she would have just rolled off. But because he felt like she didn't want to obey his authority, he decides he's going to start screaming on her. And the only thing that really governed him, I don't even really think it was the body camera, because he knew he was being recorded. So if he attacked her physically, it would have been on camera. That's what I think really governed him. And he also knew that it wouldn't have fun, because that's not a black perp running from the scene of a suspected drive-by shooting. That's a white woman concerned about her neighborhood.
Right.
See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So it's like there's really no way that you can argue for Antwon in this current climate. And you also know that it's completely unfair, because if Antwon had been a white woman and run like that, he probably wouldn't have got shot. He could have got chased down, but he probably wouldn't have got shot. It's fucked up, man. Now, as for the immigrant situation, so I got some. I read an article by the ACLU detailing abuses of detained immigrants going back, a couple years, and I'm like, I feel like it's an "I told you so," and I think it's going to get worse too. I saw another Vox article where they were asking where are the girls, and I'm like, we know where they are, and we know what's probably happening to them. I mean, the thing that really, he did sign the executive order to say, we're not gonna separate children from families, but they made it abundantly clear that the children that have been separated from families already, those children are gone. I mean, like the language barriers and stuff. I mean, it's just despicable what they're doing and how they're doing it and how these kids are ending up. And I'm like, how can Americans, given our history, how can they stand there and not absolutely demand that, this just cannot continue? They arrested hundreds of immigrants at this meatpacking plant in Ohio. The first question I'm asking myself is, what about the CEO? What about the manager on staff? What about the boss of the plant? What about the regional manager? What about HR? What about the people who hire people? What about, what I'm saying? Like, if this is such a huge problem and all these illegal immigrants are such a huge problem, why don't you cut it off at the source? We all know that these people are not committing crimes. They're taking low-wage jobs and they're laying low so they can send a few ducats back to the fam and then scooting on back to Central America or South America. If you really wanted to stop this shit, you'd arrest a couple bosses. But nobody arrested
the representatives of that group. They always talk about government overreach. The government can be too powerful, and government is a bureaucracy, and don't tread on me and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, they don't really care about that, especially if the government that's in power has the boot on the neck of people that they look down upon. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about why certain people are okay with, our government abusing certain people, because they look down on those people. They don't think it's going to touch them.
But it will, though, because one day, what was her name?
Chi-Town Sue.
Chi-Town Sue is going to be caught up in that shit. That's how people do these things in these and countries that turn into dictatorships. The right-wing death squads, they don't just come out of thin air. They come out of the police force. They come out of the military. They come out because those people are already trained. And like when you start to see the breakdown between the majority, like people in the majority culture, like people who have sympathy for the minority culture, or people who have the intellectual capacity to understand what's going on, when you start to see those people become brutalized, then it's time. It's really time to consider that your country has just completely collapsed. Because every time I've read in history of some country that has slipped into a dictatorship, whether it's Cambodia, whether it's Vietnam, Germany, Japan, Italy, Congo, all these countries, like the first thing they do is they look at the minority group and anyone who supports them in the majority group. And then they start to annihilate anyone who opposes capital and investment. And that's exactly what every single time. Here's another good question. Why can capital travel around the world with no borders? But a person who earned capital can't. What is that? Like, what is that?
Because that's
you would think if capitalists were smart, they would allow capital gainers to go around the world. Look, if you could send somebody who is talented to go to some country, you don't have to worry about any kind of visa, and you don't have to worry about, you just like, look, you got some skills with this, you go here, make us some money. You would think that would be great, you know? Like people are so damn greedy. They're like, no, only we can move between countries. The people who earn us money, they must be subjected to our whims because we are short-sighted. It's just ridiculous.
That's a good point, man. You made a lot of good points, man. I'm gonna address some of the points that you made, definitely about the policing, man. But we're gonna get to this next caller. But man, we appreciate you calling in, man, and sharing your viewpoint, man. Always.
Hey, no problem, fellas. Y'all have a wonderful show as always, and y'all have a good night.
All right, appreciate it, man. You too.
All right, man.
Peace out.
I feel like we got guest hosts sometimes.
Oh, for real, man. It's like unofficial.
Yeah, man. Straight
unofficial
up, man.
Guest host, man.
Very knowledgeable, man. All right, we got another caller, 770. Thank you for holding with us, and you're on the air live.
Hey, guys. It's Tony from Atlanta.
What's going on, Tony?
Yeah, I was gonna. The last caller. What's his name? He called it like every night. What's his name?
Court.
Yeah,
that's Court, man.
Yeah, he brought up a real good Court. He brought up a real good point with the as far as people being able to move to different countries, the immigration, like because right now it's like if you're either rich or you make us money, and therefore you're allowed to go to other countries, which is totally fucking ridiculous because that shuts the poor people out unless they meet some kind of some arbitrary criteria, and then they're allowed, like asylum seekers or whatever.
Yeah, capital.
They're allowed. Yeah. He's totally right.
Yeah, those who control the capital can just move freely about the country without, worrying about many restrictions. But those kind of seeking to
protection,
either seeking protection or a better life, and trying to gain capital of their own are like, nah. So to me, it's just
money talks.
Money talks. It's all about controlling how people can move, especially people who are, less well off.
Yeah, and that was pretty much what I was gonna hint on is because right now I'm lately, since this whole thing with the children prisoners and whatnot going on in certain spots around the U.S. I'm seeing a lot of in a lot of like Black Twitter, maybe more so Black Facebook. I'm seeing a lot of a lot of the so-called woke people like, oh man, well those Hispanics, they didn't do nothing for us, so I'm not looking out for them. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
And
too,
I'm like, and I'm like, then there's this one meme I'm seeing that I just saw. It was like, well, how many Mexicans ever cared about anybody Black? And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. You do realize Haitians were turned away from the USA seeking asylum, so they fled to Mexico, and Mexico opened their borders to them. Right.
So why they're making it about one immigrant population, as if like all the immigrants that Trump is targeting come from Central America.
Mm-hmm. And plus it's like, and plus they're trying to, the people that are that are against it, and again I'm talking about our people. I'm not talking about overall like white people and all that. I'm just talking like in the Black community. They're like, well, well, they never cared. They never cared about black people that black kids or anything. And it's like, yes, they do. Their countries are accepting black immigrants, asylum seekers, because the U.S. turns them away. It's maddening. It's like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Y'all even watch the news? Y'all just selectively see things the way y'all want to see them.
But it's also ridiculous because, like, as black people, a lot of us talk about disenfranchisement, right? A lot of us talk about the you call it racial inequities, racial disparities, whatever you want to call it. How the system is not, it's not fair. It's not it's not set up fair. So you want to hate on people that are also disenfranchised? Like, what are you doing here? That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. From what I be seeing, it's like a lot of black people get caught up in the xenophobia in this nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that. Like the whole, I want to say that there's something or some persons or maybe I wouldn't say those groups have been infiltrated, but I just see kind of the same talking points coming out of some groups, like the whole they're taking our jobs. So I'm trying to figure out who has carried these talking points into these black spaces.
It's like you're feeding into propaganda.
Some of them I do see. If I'm allowed to talk about other commentators, right? Y'all don't mind?
Not good.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, because I know like be touching on stepping on toes and stuff, and they'll be giving you hate mail. But like Yvette Carnell, she does Breaking Brown. She be saying some stuff like that. She says it like, "Oh, we can't be worried about all them brown people from Mexico and Guatemala." It's like, lady, what the hell are you talking about? There's black people there too, Exactly. And then Boyce Watkins, he tweeted out something. Boyce Watkins tweeted out something saying, "Oh man, we can't be. It's insanity. Black Americans worrying about the Mexicans. We got our own problems." I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Boyce Watkins because he has a YouTube channel. I think it's called Boyce Watkins. Then he has some like spinoff. It's called like Your Black World. I think he does that. I'm not sure if that's in conjunction with Yvette Carnell, but
they used to be together, but they split off. They had a falling out.
And the matter of fact, I just saw an upload yesterday, and it dealt with that immigrants taking black jobs, and I was like, "Oh man,
yo, man, like it."
But I'm like,
this is ridiculous to me.
Some immigrants are black.
But see, it's like you're not realizing, like, Africans that were brought over to the Americas. It wasn't just the United States of America. They went to South America. They went,
actually a lot of them,
like them mugs are black.
Most of the
there.
slavery did not occur in what was now known as the Lower 48.
I know
most of the slavery happened in South America, or now known as South America, the continent, and
so them cats are black down
in
there,
the Caribbean islands as well.
All these Hispanic people, Latino people, they're black too, right? I mean, like they are black.
There's like I don't want to get the number wrong. There's like millions, I don't know, like in the 70 millions black people in Brazil, black Brazilians. So I don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's like it's I could be wrong. I can't remember the number. I looked at it a long time ago. It was like 70, 80, 90
But
million,
people like what like Tony's talking about. You perceive them as different.
You perceive them as different. And it's interesting if you just look at the legacy of colonialism and westward expansion. Who was affected by that as well? This is why the populations that on the southern border are mainly Native American and Mexican, because that guess whose land that used to be. You know what I'm saying? So they are kind of a part of this legacy just as much as black people, where they've been affected by the legacy of imperialism and westward expansion, just like everyone else who has been. So I don't know why they cannot be included in this discussion about disenfranchisement. It's just, I don't know. It just feels
naive, man.
It feels like there's some sort of, maybe there's some black people out there that feel like they're losing something in including other people. You know what I'm saying?
Like if I can't get it, then nobody get it.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm not,
dumb,
exactly. If if we can't, get on this freedom ride, nobody can. You know what I'm saying?
If
this road to freedom is just too damn clogged.
Yeah. But see, that's never the argument that anybody reasonable should make, because when we talk about, especially if we're talking about criminal justice reform, of course we have to highlight how, our dealings with police officers, it is disproportionate when you're looking at the statistics of this country. But we don't just talk about cases involving black people, because we know it hits white people as well. It's going to hit everybody. It's not just going to hit the minority population. It's going to hit everybody. So why not reform the whole thing for everybody? It's going to help us, but it's going to help the whole system at large. So, trying to make a better situation for us, we don't just have to separate ourselves out and say, like, we just have to focus on us and nobody else. There are other people all over this world that are being disenfranchised. Like, I'm turning a blind eye to that. I don't know, it's crazy, man.
And what I see in a lot of Yvette, I don't know, I think maybe Boyce Watkins does a little bit too, but I know Yvette Carnell, she definitely does it. Like, she seems to fail to understand that the foreign policy is reflected in the domestic policy. It's like she wants to try to separate the two. It's like you can't. Mm-hmm. They mirror each other.
Right. Especially under this administration.
But that's all I wanted to talk about. It's just like something I've seen pop up. Like, there's one other thing. Y'all didn't talk about it, but I don't think y'all did. You know that those people that organized, that white supremacists that organized the Charlotte, the thing that happened in Charlotte,
Unite the Right People.
They got that
right.
They got a permit for Washington D.C. in August.
I heard about it. Yeah, right out front of the White House, I believe. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
that.
So it'd be like a fraternity party, because it's right out front.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Why not open the gates, right? Mm-hmm. Open the gates, they can sit right on the front lawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could have a block party with Trump.
I'm saying he come out, make an appearance.
And the 3Ks I'm not thinking about that should be embroidered on the White House are not Kappa Kappa Kappa. So, you know what I'm saying? Something else.
Hell yeah, man.
It'll just be like a little fraternity party right at the White House.
Come down, get a drink.
Come down, get a drink.
Get your tiki torch.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. Y'all have a good night.
All right,
I appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks for calling in, Tony.
All right.
I want to go back to something. Court. What Court was saying about first about the Chi-Town Sue, because he was talking about, if the officer was just a little bit cordial, saying that, hey, he didn't even have to be long and extensive with his explanation. Yo, it's a serious situation. Somebody with a gun, you might want to get in your house. She would just guide into the house. That's what she said. But his default position was aggressive, because it was all that default position, I guess, was engineered by his noticing that she was videotaping officers, and he didn't like that whatsoever. Based on what he did in his encounter with her, it would lead me to believe that this was not just a special situation, like that he acts like this on a
regular basis.
Maybe on the I can only enough. I can't say how much, but this wasn't like a one-off. This wasn't something that, like, this was very common to his policing tactics. He was just very aggressive, and he didn't want anybody to capture that on video footage. Now with Antwon Rose, Court made the point that, if this was, let's say if this was a white lady that exited the vehicle, ran away, she wouldn't have been shot. That's true. I feel like that's true. And we've talked about how it doesn't always just come down to racism, like as in it's a white black thing, because we see that black officers do the same thing. They have horrible techniques when it comes to black people and Hispanic people. We see that on the regular. So it seems to be that officers perceive the color skin that we have in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
And also, I think,
like, it's more threatening to be darker than it is to be white.
Obviously. And I guess all people have internalized that, even the targets of said racism. So you internalize those views about yourself, And if you work for an institution where the overwhelming majority are white people, I think it's natural that you're going to operate in a way that is a representation of the mindset of that majority. You know what I'm saying? Whoever that majority is. In this case, it's white people.
You remember how 12-year-old Tamir Rice was gunned down, killed within a second of the police officers coming for him, and you remember how they described him?
A grown man. Yes. He was a grown man.
So that's what I'm saying about how blackness is perceived. It's perceived as more threatening than just being a 12-year-old boy. No, this must be a grown man playing with a real gun. So you think
if Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old girl playing with a gun, you think they would have approached it the same way? Though I doubt they would have.
Of course, nobody can be 100% sure, but I would put it at 99%. I believe that it wouldn't have happened. And like Court made the case, if this was a young female white individual that ran from this vehicle, would she have been shot? I just fail to see how that's possible. Blackness is dangerous in this country and in others as well. But in this country, this is the country I live in. This is the country I see the most evidence of it. It's dangerous. It's more harmful, or the perceived threat is more so than just a regular white person for some reason. All right, so we're gonna get out of here, man. It's been a good show, but with some horrible
technical
news.
difficulties.
Yeah, the technical difficulty. I know we lost some viewers because of all that buffering, and I have no idea what was going on. Haven't changed not one setting. YouTube just wanted to mess with us tonight, I guess. Maybe I doubt it was the internet. I can't see how it was the internet.
Nothing that's showing that there was problems with the connection.
Internet's always good. I don't know, but we'll try to do better. Well, no, we can try better. We're at the mercy of the settings.
Malicious at a deep state after this. That would be an honor, man. That would be an actual honor.
Wouldn't it be an honor, man? But some people feeling themselves. Some people be feeling themselves. Yo, I got the FBI watching me.
See, Malicious wouldn't have said that if there's something that's kind of been floated around with some other people.
I'm so important, man. I'm on FBI watch list. Deep State got their eyes on us. Trump know who we are. You know what I'm saying? They trying to shut us down.
Even though I be getting like 500 views on a live stream and 10 to 20, 30,000 views on my post and many eyes on my stuff. Yeah, they're shutting me down.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we're all, we're trying to achieve a status where we actually are at least a little bit relevant. If we actually had 100,000, 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, we still wouldn't be we're not A-list. Nah, I mean, you could say that, those type of people that have an audience like that they're relevant to a degree. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there might be some news personalities that know of them. You might see something in the news about them from time to time, but I don't know how much access that you would still have. You know
what? There's people who have a large following that I subscribe to. They have a larger audience than the individuals that we're kind of referencing. We're not gonna name any names, but they have a larger audience, and they talk about whole host of issues that you would think would make the deep state mad and go after them. They have a bigger following. 500,000,
much larger.
500,000, 600,000, 200,000 on YouTube.
They must not be talking about some real stuff.
They must not be.
They can't be talking about no real stuff, man. Because people with small followings, they're the ones that you got to go after. Because you want to suppress the truth.
No matter how small.
Because getting the truth out is dangerous.
The truth.
The truth is... What was that? Who's that? The truth is it's too late for truth. The truth is my son.
Yeah.
My son. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. My son is the truth. Anyway, all right. Appreciate everybody that joined us for this stream. We'll be back next week on Tuesday, 8 p.m. again, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. time change. I guess everybody's used to it by now. Looks like it, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how they feel. Like, is it different? Is it better? 7 p.m., 8 p.m. I wonder how people feel. Maybe y'all can tell us that. But anyway, shout out to all of the people in the chat. Shout out to Court and Tony for calling in. Shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com. Thank you for supporting us every single month. We appreciate that. And we're going to use that support to hopefully upgrade this stream. Like I said, we still haven't gotten around to that software upgrade because I feel like I'm intimidated by it, man.
Because you've become comfortable.
Yeah, you see, this is such this is seamless, even though it's like
it still offers challenges. It's still something that we're used to.
It's just a process now. So going to something else is like, damn, I'm gonna have to spend hours on this. But we're gonna make the change, man, because I feel like it is gonna be overall a better situation. Look at Malicious, man. Look at Malicious, man.
Coming in on the shot clock cheese.
Look at that, man. We appreciate that, Malicious.
Right before the buzzer.
We appreciate that so much, for real, man. When Malicious she called in before, didn't she? I think she did call in one time. When Malicious gonna call back in?
I know, right? I think she called one time.
I think she did call back in. I think she called in once. But we appreciate you, man. Sorry to put you on the spot, but we just want to hear your voice, man. We want to hear, you articulate your positions. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, we would like to hear that from everybody in the chat, From time to time, just call in. Let us know how you feel about something. Like I said, we'd be glad to hear from you. So, with that, got anything else, man?
Man, I ain't got nothing else, man. Just looking forward to this weekend, man.
Looking forward to the weekend, huh?
Yeah, looking forward to the weekend, man.
I don't know what I got. Like I said, I think I'm gonna get on that software, man. I think I'm gonna get on that software, man. And then too, the other side, cause it's a whole transition, the whole editing too. I want to go to Adobe. So that'd be a whole transition. Because you already told me. You already told me, man.
It's something once you get the hang of it, it's cool. But man, just it's one of those things where it's you can't take a long break from it because everything is so intricate and specific, and the menu options are so vast, and you have to go to specific things to make things happen. You have to go to a specific menu to make something happen, and there's multiple ways you can do the same task or effect. So sometimes it's very intuitive, but there's so many different basics to it that has a high learning curve. And then you can so many different plugins as well that's going to add to the difficulty.
You're not swaying me. It's like you're trying to.
No, I'm just letting know. It's actually. But at the end of the day, it's not. It's fun.
I'm not encouraged though.
It's fun though.
But I'm not encouraged to do it though.
But see, the thing is, what encouraged me was the fact that
I heard a headache.
How many? But see, it was the amount of options I had and what I could do is what was encouraging. I was like, oh man, I can do this. I may have had to watch a 10-minute tutorial video, but I was like, oh shit, I can do that. I'm like, dang. So the encouragement comes with what you can create.
So basically what I heard is the first part is Navy SEAL training, but then at the end of the day it's oh shoot, I made it.
Yeah, pretty much.
He said pretty much. All right, okay. All right, everybody. I hope everybody has a good weekend, and we'll see you in a few days, man. Everybody, peace out. Let the madness begin.
Man, I think...